We found the headquarters of this powerful movement in the unassuming offices of Dr. Rand Paul's eye surgery.
Yeah, let's take a look and see.
The doctor operates in Kentucky, but where he'd really like clearer vision is in Washington. His ferocious commitment to cutting spending has won him the support of the Tea Party, but the mistrust of the Republican leadership.
It threatens them that I want to change the system. I'm not just running against one person. I'm running against the entire misbegotten system of Washington and the passing out of favors, the passing out of money. And I recognize that it's on both sides. You know, I'll talk about the earmarks, but I'll tell them, remember the bridge to nowhere that Sarah Palin talked about? That was a Republican earmark. And once you say that, the people in the Tea Party love that, but the people in the Republican Party or the hierarchy cringe because they think, my area gets some of that money.
The fact is, if you want another Washington politician, Jack's just fine. If you want a tough on Wall Street, small-town doctor who will fight for you, your hunt is over. I'm Daniel Mangiardo, and I approve this message, and so does Gunner, because it's time to put the people of Kentucky first.
Like his father, Ron Paul, the former presidential candidate, Rand believes in very small government. He'd even abolished the departments of energy, education and commerce. But if he owes his views to his father, he owes much of the success of his campaign to this man, Bobby Alexander, the head of the local Tea Party Patriots. Bobby likes Rand Paul and really dislikes Barack Obama. Partly, it's his policies.
Troubled insurance giant AIG apparently is getting the message. It faced widespread outrage for spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a luxury retreat.
We're Americans that care about this country, and we're worried and concerned and fearful of what direction this president and his administration is taking.
But Bobby's mistrust of Obama also reflects the more extreme wing of the movement.
There's a lot of people in America today that does not believe this president is eligible to be the president of the United States because of his birthplace. And so it's so difficult to trust someone that won't be forthcoming. The simple answer would be, Mr. President, give us a birth certificate. He hasn't done that, he won't do that. So it creates a doubt.
Most Republicans don't agree with that view, but it is certainly one element in the angry turmoil here.
I'm Trey Grayson. On national defense, there are big differences between Rand Paul and me. Rand Paul opposes the war in Iraq.
Trey Grayson, in his second term as Secretary of State, looks the archetypal Southern Republican senator. And in any other year, the seat would be his for the asking.
Paul opposes the Patriot Act, which prevents terrorist attacks.
But the anti-establishment mood is really hurting Grayson, so now he's going after Rand Paul wherever he can.
Washington is broken, but Paul would make things worse. Trey Grayson, the new conservative leadership we need.
Mother. She's never sought public office before. Ladies and gentlemen, Darlene Fitzgerald Price.
Well, but if you had been a senator in 2002, 2003,
But that's
and somebody that told you actually he has no weapons of mass destruction, and you believe,
oh yeah, well that's
would you have
okay.
voted for the war resolution?
Okay, okay, so under that scenario, I wouldn't have voted for it. I think the weapons of mass destruction, even given his track record, I think absent the presence of weapons of mass destruction, I think you'd have to vote no.
$1 billion bailouts where 300,000 of my fellow veterans go homeless.
As chairman of the Kentucky Republican Party, Steve Robertson has the unenviable job of presiding over this inter-party fight. He rejects the insider-outsider labels.
There is a general atmosphere, not only in Kentucky but nationally, that the people who are there are the problem. And I think in a primary election, it's convenient to go into a political party organization and say, there is an establishment, there is a problem with people who are there, and I don't think that's very productive.
When I refused to go quietly into the night, when I protested this and became a whistleblower, They came after me to cover this up.
Just for the record, I had steak and banana pudding tonight, if anybody wanted to record that for future reference.
There's a reason we don't have health care, education, and a number of other things. It's because of crony campaign financing. That's right, I said it. We have a government... Trey.
It's really happening in a lot of places right now, and it's causing some tensions and some fracturing within the party. You could go to Florida, for example, where the seemingly popular Republican governor, Charlie Crist, has gone from a 30-point lead over a rather firebrandish conservative who's a favorite of the Tea Party to now being down by 30 points and talking about leaving and running as an independent.
We have a government that is bought off by the bigs. Big oil, big banks, big pharmaceutical companies, and big insurance companies. And this is why in my campaign, I have vowed that I have not and I will not take one thin dime from the bigs, not one thin dime.
We have Bob Bennett, the Republican senator from Utah, a quite conservative man who is likely to be denied renomination after several terms in the Senate because he deigned to actually sponsor a health care bill with a Democrat.
If they were NASCARs, they would have to wear their sponsors on their suits. NASCAR on one arm, Exxon Oil on the other, and a big fat red sign on their bumper that says, "For sale."
So we've got a lot of turmoil. But the real question at this point in the short run is whether this is going to create such a fracture in conservative ranks that some of these candidates actually can't win in the fall. For Rand Paul, who is despised by, among others, Mitch McConnell, the minority leader, who's really the dean of the Kentucky Republican Party, it would be a nightmare to have Paul as his colleague in the Senate. But Paul is still likely to win in a year that still favors Republicans because people hate Democrats at this point.
Not me.
You know, Jack's a fresh face. I mean, clearly we need some new leadership, a new generation. You know, take that mantle of statesmanship and leadership and lead us into a new century.
McConnell said in this room a year or so ago that knowing what he knows today about that, he still would have voted to go to war. How do you feel about that position?
We'd disagree, obviously.
If you're tired of people not taking your phone calls because the bigs have them on speed dial, then it's time that we start replacing pocket politicians with public servants. One who is not bought off, one that will not be bought off, then when you go to the polls next spring, you remember one thing. Price is right for U.S. Senate. Thank you.